I have been described as a politician, public figure, and you would wonder what a politician is doing here. Well, I've enchanted by the theme that you have today, and that's the theme is ephemeres of transformation or transformational ephemeres. And frankly, I want to put across to you something that is perhaps very ordinary, perhaps very extraordinary, and I've called it the Cinderella moment. This is a story of 8 girls who started life and would have remained in that mode of being beggar girls in the streets of my constituency, Farrukhabad. I have links with education. I meet any number of teachers and students, aspirants for scholarships. I've come across institutions, and I'm sure that your university itself is contributing to the welfare of children and pupils who can't provide, whose parents can't provide for educating them, or perhaps certainly of the levels that they aspire to. And therefore, a little help from somebody known to you, somebody who's running an institution, has opened up avenues for so many people. And I think that's something that we're all familiar with, and that's something that we encourage. But why this is different, why these 8 girls is different, it's told in the story. Now, if you look at this first picture, the story started with those 2 girls called Rashmi and Muskan. Rashmi is the elder girl, and Muskan is the younger one. On the left, you see their mother, who is a widow, and the gentleman there is just a helpful person who is to bring them across and bring them to the school they've finally replaced them. I was my election in 2009. I was doing a walkabout in my constituency in the urban part, rural area, greeting people, wishing them, asking them if they had any problems, anything that we could do for them, and would they be kind enough to vote for me, etc. And I suddenly felt a tug on my shirt, and I looked back to see what it was. It was a little girl. It was Rashmi. What you see here was about the age that she was. She was barely 12, and she looked at me with soulful eyes, and almost in an Oliver Twist moment, said, "Please, sir, can I have some money?" And I looked at her and I said, "Look, not now. This is an election time. And why should you be begging money here anyway?" She said, "My mother is extremely unwell. I need money to treat her." So I said, "Look, that's difficult. I can't have, there are photographers here. I can't give you any money. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll send somebody to your house, and they will help you." And I asked one of my friends to go along with her and see what he could do. And I just forgot about it. A few minutes later, the man came back and he said, "Okay, it's done, but that girl is a compulsive liar. Everybody in that place, in their locality where they live, said she's a compulsive liar, and she does this kind of thing all the time. The mother had a little fever, but she wasn't dying. She was all right. And there was another unmarried elder sister in the house. It's a small house. But anyway, I gave them 200 rupees and I've come away. And I forgot all about it. It's one of the things that you do when you feel somebody needs help. You give them help and you move on. I forgot about the incident. Some months later, I got elected. I was in government. Some months later, I went back to thank people in the constituency, and I was going from locality to locality. And finally, I came somewhere near where I had met this girl. Still wasn't in my mind that something like that had happened. I was going up to the stage to get up to speak when I felt the tug again, and I looked around, and this time there were 2 girls. It was Reshmi and Muskan, her sister. So I said, "Who's this girl and who are you?" And she said, "Oh, don't you remember me? I'm the one who asked for money." And I said, "Oh, gosh, yes, you're the one." She said, "Well, how about giving it to me now? There's no election." So I said, "Look, we sent some money that time, and we'll happily give you money, but I need to go and see your mother. Let me come to your house." And she said, "No, don't worry about my house. Just give me some money." I went looking for you 20 miles away. I went looking for you in your house, but you weren't there. And I said, look, I don't live there. I live in Delhi. I come there only to rest for a while, and then I move away. But anyway, I'll come to your house. So we followed them to the house. I got there. One-room tenement, virtually a veranda, not even a room really. And there was this lady sitting there and looking at me very suspiciously. So I said to her, why don't you put these two girls in a good school? And she said, are you crazy? Do you think I have money to send them to a good school? And I said, no, don't worry. We'll arrange for a good school for them. We'll arrange for the money. And she said, and then who's going to earn for my living? I said, why should these girls be earning for your living? And she said, but who do you think then supports me? These girls go and beg the whole day, and every day they bring back 25 rupees to me, and that's how I survive. So, I was completely foxed, and I said, look, I'll arrange something for you. I'll arrange a sewing machine for you. But if you only agree to let these girls go to a good school. And she said, no way. This is my livelihood. These girls are going nowhere. So I walked away. And I was surprised that there were neighbors around there. Nobody sort of got up to say how stupid you are. Here's a chance to get the girls educated, and you're not even letting him propose that to you or suggest that to you or to persuade you. Anyhow, somewhat disappointed, I walked away. Didn't think about it again. Till a week later, in Delhi, in my house, this woman turns up with these two girls, and they were exactly like that. Those jackets were given to them because it was cold. I found 2 jackets and I gave them. And she said, well, here they are. Take them to a school. And I said, well, I can't arrange a school overnight. I need to talk to someone. And she said, well, do whatever you have to, but I brought these girls, and can you please give me some money? So I said, what are you doing? Are you making a transaction about giving these girls over to me? This is not going to do. So I rang a friend of mine who runs the school, Delhi Public School, Sonipat, and I said, look, I've got a problem in my hands. I'd offered education to 2 girls, and they've now arrived. So that poor lady, Mrs. Mann, said, look, give me some time. I'll come tomorrow. I'll pick them up. And I said, no, tomorrow. You have to do it now. So I forced her to come. She came, took the girls, and I said, please make sure there's an affidavit. Please make sure there are photographs. Please make sure that this woman understands that she's not being forced, etc. I don't want a story in the newspapers tomorrow saying these girls have been abducted and brought to a school. So please be sure everything is fine. Anyway, it went fine. This lady took a little money and left. The children were a little distressed, little bit puzzled about what would happen to them. But they settled down 2, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days later. I was told that they are fine. They are beginning to learn something. They had never been to a school, and they had never held a writing instrument. Their fingers couldn't hold a pen or a pencil properly when they came. And obviously, Reshmi was much older. She was put in with virtual infants of 4 years or 5 years, and she had to somehow adjust herself. The other one was a little younger, and therefore there wasn't that much of a problem. A month later, this woman came again, and she came to see me. And her complaint was that I had ruined her daughters. And I said, please tell me, what is it that I've done? She said, my children used to travel without ticket all the way to Kanpur, which is 100 kilometers away, in the middle of the night on the train. And they never uttered the word fear. But last night, I went to the school, and I was sitting with them, and merely to go up to the toilet, my elder daughter said, I'm scared to go to the toilet. Will you please come with me? Now look what you've done with my children. You've destroyed them. You've destroyed them, and they are now no good to this world. What am I going to do? What am I going to do, and how will I survive? Now this goes on. 2 years pass. Once, one particular Christmas holiday, I just check informally to see if the girls are back, and I'm told the younger one is back, but the elder one is not back. The elder one is not back and hasn't been back for over 10 days. So I called up to find out what had happened, and I was discovered that she was being married off. She was all of 13, and her mother had taken some money and was marrying her off to a local priest in a local Maulvi. So I rang up that Maulvi, and I gave him a piece of my mind and said, you will leave your mosque and go to the nearest police station if you don't watch it. And then I told her that if you don't bring that girl back here within 24 hours, you're going to prison as well. So she turned up, but she turned up all by herself and brought a whole list of things that she had bought as trousseau and said, I borrowed money for this, and I've done so much, I've arranged so much for the food, etc., etc. I need money, otherwise the girl's not coming back. So I said, that's fine, girl doesn't come back, you don't go back either. You stay here, and we go straight to the police station. Anyway, finally we negotiated that for 3,000 rupees to pay off her debts, the girl would come, and she came. Now the same girl is today, and you see as you go along, that's what they were when they came, and this is what they look like barely 2 months later. Now why are the other girls there? Because the man who's to bring these girls up and down said, my daughters are asking me why they can't go to the same school, so we got 2 more. And then some other person came and said, why don't you take my girl as well? So we got 1 more. Then I was sitting during the election in a place where I was getting bored. The speeches were very boring. I was getting bored. There was a little child. There was children sitting in front of me. So I pointed to one and I said, come here. She thought she'd done something wrong. And that's one girl called Reena. So I said, are your parents here? And she thought I was going to complain to her parents. So she said, no, my father's not here, but my mother's here. So I said, go and fetch your mother. She brought her mother. And my mother was looking scared. What has my daughter done? And I said, nothing. Do you want to put her in a school? And she said, we can't afford it. We can barely keep her in a little school here in the village. So I said, well, just put her in the car. She's going to a school. She'll go to a public school. She'll learn English. And she will transform herself. So the mother reluctantly agreed. I sent the mother with her. And that day, we got 1 more girl, Reena. And now there are 8 girls. 8 girls. They've been there now for 4 years, 5 years, speak English fluently. Some of them are swimming champions. Some of them are horse riding champions. They are now like any other child in that school. And that's where you find them now. You can't tell where these girls came from. They mix very easily with everybody else. Now, these are the ones on the left. Those are 2 sisters who are now swimming champions. This is the eldest one, Reshmi, who's now a horse champion. This is the younger one, learning to write English and read. This is Reshmi again, doing homework, receiving gifts and awards, going on trips, enjoying an evening with other kids together, doing a fashion show, doing a dance. And then 2 of these girls, when I went to see them at their school, this came out to greet me. And that's the story of this, which I call the story of Cinderella. Now, why can't this be done by governments? Governments have schemes. There's the right to education. There are all kinds of schemes for assistance of people who are backward. There are schemes for homes for homeless people. But there is a severe connectivity missing somewhere. And that severe connectivity is that there is no system of social workers who are responsible for all families that need help, who can walk into a family, walk into a home, look at what they need, and then provide them the connectivity either with a government agency or with an NGO or with a helpful person who would then be able to provide them with that help. This is the critical gap that we have in governance in our country. Everything else has been put in place, but what we don't have is that critical gap being addressed. For me, do I call this a transformational moment? I believe these kids would have grown up, got married at the age of 13 and 14, lost their husbands, either to disease or to fatigue or to overwork or simply to alcohol, which is what's happened with the rest of the women in the family. And then they would have been helpless. And you can imagine what happens. Then you drift towards crime, you drift towards immorality, you drift towards helplessness, etc., etc. And we keep giving figures and statistics of the success of our programs. But somewhere behind those statistics are these faces and individuals who are lost completely, a burden to society, and obviously a great moral defeat for all of us who believe that everybody has a right to things that we have got in life. And that's a story of a lifetime. I have to do it in 18 minutes. I could go on indefinitely for what else each of these girls have done. But ladies and gentlemen, for me, it's one drop in the ocean, but a drop that's a valuable one, a drop that's going to be a lifetime's transformation for these girls. So maybe 10 years later, when I come back to a place like this, I'll tell you how wonderfully well they've done. And I'll be truly proud that somewhere, if you have place in your heart, there is no reason why transformations can't happen. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.